Tonight, New Year's Eve celebrations rocked by a double drowning tragedy. 2 children pulled from the Swan River. From a fireworks spectacular to our first newborn, West Australians ring in 2024. Breaking news on a house fire in our northeastern suburbs. We're live to Ellenbrook. Caught on camera, cars damaged as tempers flare in a southern suburbs road rage attack. Plus, from Tasmania to the throne, our Princess Mary to become the first Australian-born Queen. And David Warner makes another retirement announcement ahead of his farewell test at the SCG.
This is 9 News Perth with Tracy Vo.
Good evening. 2 Perth families have suffered unimaginable loss after their children drowned in the Swan River on New Year's Eve. The boy, aged 6, and the girl, just 4, pulled from the water unresponsive, and despite desperate efforts, they couldn't be saved.
2 young lives lost, 2 families shattered, forever changed by tragedy on New Year's Eve.
I couldn't even begin to imagine what they were going through. It's absolutely, utterly devastating, terrific, and I'm just so sorry for them.
The children, a boy aged 6 and a girl just 4, were pulled from the river by members of the public around 5:30 yesterday.
And all we see is there's this guy, he's got a red backpack, and there's 2 kids that are just floating in the water, and he's just rushed over, jumped in, pulled them out of the water. One was like floating a bit higher, the other one got pulled down by the current.
Burswood Park packed with New Year's Eve revellers, some rushing to help as others watched on helplessly in horror.
There was a woman who said she was a nurse. She came over and started doing CPR.
Police and paramedics arrived shortly after, all doing what they could to revive the children.
There was a lot of panic and chaos, and that's when the mother came over, and oh my God, as soon as she came over, she dropped on the floor. She collapsed, she passed out.
The boy and girl from 2 separate families then taken to Perth Children's Hospital. Despite desperate efforts, they couldn't be saved.
When they've been spotted in the water, they've already been drowned for a while. Because when we started doing the CPR, there's a lot of water, and they already drank a lot of water.
The Swan River itself, it may seem to be quite a passive or flat surface, but beneath it there's slippery rocks, or the surface depth may vary. So there are a lot of risks that you need to be aware of.
Burswood Park today reopened, a teddy bear and flowers placed in tribute to the young pair. Exactly how this happened is still unclear. Today, police are providing specialist support to the families as they grapple with this devastating loss.
We can only begin to imagine the trauma and suffering that those families will be experiencing at this time.
I saw these 2 children was walking in close to water, but I just feel sorry now why I didn't stop these 2 kids from going close to water.
Amber Wilkinson, 9 News.
Police were out in force last night, arresting more than 100 people in the CBD. It comes as thousands of families flocked to Elizabeth Quay for Perth's biggest fireworks display in more than 2 decades.
Finishing the year with a bang.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year! We were promised the most impressive show ever, and that's exactly what we got.
I was actually surprised how big they were, to be honest.
Thousands watching on from Elizabeth Quay as the City of Perth delivered the first fireworks of the evening.
It was excellent, actually. It was family friendly, and, we loved it.
I've never seen so many people in one place.
By 8:30, the city train station already chock-a-block. Those wanting an early night making the most of free transport. The party carrying on for many, from Fremantle to Scarborough. People farewelled 2023. Families reunited, some travelling from as far as Spain.
We are going to visit to my brother.
Yeah, and we want to also experience New Year's in Australia.
I got to come over and see my family for 2023 Christmas.
With a new chapter on the horizon, there were big ambitions.
Eagles hopefully winning the grand final too.
Hopefully more holidays.
Thousands turning out on our Perth city streets with friends and family to mark the beginning of a new year. The Overnight, not without trouble, an additional 440 police officers on the beat, 126 people arrested, 290 charges laid.
But whilst the majority of the community are well behaved, there is those still that are going to involve themselves in antisocial behaviour.
For most, it was all worth the wait.
Happy New Year!
Rachel Clifford, 9 News.
Police are reviewing footage of an arrest made during celebrations in Northbridge overnight. Cameras rolling as several officers used force to control a man on James Street. Police say he was reported by security staff for acting disorderly just after midnight.
Police will have a look at that video and they will review the circumstances that led to his arrest and if any action needs to be taken against the officers involved.
The 25-year-old is accused of failing to comply with direction, positioning his arms to prevent being handcuffed and resisting arrest. WA families have soaked up the sun on the first day of 2024. From parks to beaches and, of course, the races, celebrations were in full swing across the suburbs.
Celebrating New Year's Day the WA way.
Happy New Year!
Happy New Year 2024!
Sitting in the sand, soaking up the sun.
Just a nice day to come down and relax with the family, have a feed and play some beach stuff with the kids.
Picnics in the park.
It's just a good opportunity. We can kind of catch up with family, catch up with friends. What do you love about having New Year's Day off with your family?
The food.
Some even opted for an early morning bike ride before breakfast.
With friends, family, a bit of exercise early in the morning, beautiful day.
While others continued celebrations at the racetrack.
Loving my day, already drunk, it's not even 12 o'clock. Woo!
About 2,000 oysters, 2,000 bottles of champagne, I think 135 kilos of beef and steak and 1,000 cocktails plus.
West Aussies were out and about making the most of the first day of 2024.
I think it's just the start to the new year. It's just that feeling of fresh start.
I think it just brings everyone together. And, you know, everyone has a good time, everyone's happy and bring in the new year.
Even those who would prefer to still be in bed.
Oh, I'm not going to lie, a bit rough, but, you know, the sun's out.
While some might be starting the new year with sore heads, others already have their New Year's resolutions in full swing. And the advice, consistency is key.
Sometimes, but they don't really go to plan.
No drinking, no smoking.
Kids growing up and looking after the kids.
But one of the biggest celebrations of all, little Hugo, the first baby born in Perth for 2024, arriving at 12:48 this morning. His parents with this advice for their new addition.
Listen to your mum. She's always right.
Mum was always right, you get it.
Emma Griffiths, 9 News.
To breaking news now, a fire has destroyed a home in Ellenbrook. Jamie Freestone is there. Jamie, what can you tell us?
Tracy, by the time fire crews arrived at the Bendora Turn property, the home was fully engulfed in flames. As you can see, the roof has collapsed. There were 5 people inside, including 2 young children. Fortunately, they've all escaped uninjured. I'm told that the fire started in the garage. And luckily, there was also a sounding smoke alarm. 4 crews came to fight this blaze and it took them about half an hour to bring it under control. The specialist equipment tender was also here to help those fire crews who needed breathing apparatus to fight this blaze. I've also heard that a neighbour next door was using a garden hose to make sure those flames didn't reach his home. At the moment, fire crews are still hosing down the property to make sure that the embers don't reignite. At this stage, the cause is unknown. Tracy?
Jamie, thanks for the update. For the first time in history, an Australian is set to become a queen. Hobart-born Crown Princess Mary will take the throne in a matter of weeks after the shock abdication of Denmark's monarch.
Mary Donaldson, the girl from Hobart, and soon the first Australian-born queen. Princess Mary will take the Danish throne in 2 weeks, alongside her husband Frederick, who will be king. Queen Margrethe II announcing her abdication in her annual New Year's address. Europe's longest-serving monarch stepping down after 52 years. I have decided now is the right time, she said. Our Mary has been Crown Princess for almost 20 years, since she married Frederick in a Copenhagen cathedral in 2004. It followed a fairy tale meeting 4 years earlier at the Slip-In in Sydney's CBD during the 2000 Olympics.
The first time that we met or shook hands, I did not know he was the Crown Prince of Denmark.
She's raised 4 children in Denmark and become fluent in Danish.
Mere dansk end australsk.
Som du selv sagde, det har været en rejse.
Their marriage has come under public scrutiny more recently, with rumours of an affair, but no comment from the royals. While it's against Danish protocol to abdicate, Margrethe is known to have been suffering since undergoing back surgery last year.
Gud bevarer Danmark.
Time wears on and the ailments multiply, she said in her address. One can no longer cope the same as one did before. She's credited with rejuvenating support for the royals by making them seem more approachable. She's known to be a fun-loving chain smoker who likes to do her own grocery shopping. At 83 years old, she is Europe's only reigning queen, following the death of Queen Elizabeth. Her service had a lasting impact on Denmark's queen.
That really made an enormous impression on me. The fact that she was dedicating her life. It's what it's all about.
The scaled-back Scandi model of monarchy looked upon favourably by King Charles since he took the throne. In 2022, she stripped 4 of her 8 grandchildren of their royal titles to allow them to live more normal lives. Back home, we couldn't be more proud.
She's lovely. I think they're very lucky to have her.
Excellent role model. I'm very happy for her and the family.
The magnitude of it all not lost on Mary, even when she was newly engaged.
Has it sunk in yet that you will be the next Queen of Denmark?
Not completely, no. As I've said a few times today is the first day that I really begin in this role. And how I move into that role will evolve.
That time has now come, and she'll have the support of not one, but 2 nations. In Copenhagen, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
People living along parts of Japan's west coast are being told to evacuate immediately over fears of a tsunami. The major warning issued by authorities following a 7.6 magnitude earthquake in the country's central region. Waves as high as 5 metres are already reaching the Noto Peninsula. A driver has narrowly escaped being hit by a hoon during an early morning road rage attack in Rockingham. Multiple cars were damaged when the ute rammed into them as they waited at traffic lights.
A New Year burnout in Rockingham causes tempers to flare on Patterson Road. A man gets out of his car to confront the driver of the Toyota Hilux, throwing a punch. But as he walks back to his vehicle, there's a near miss as the ute rams into the back of the Holden.
It just went crazy. He just rammed into all 4 cars, ramming them into each other.
It was just after midnight as families flocked home from the fireworks.
I was kind of scared because you didn't know what his next move was going to be. I mean, we couldn't get out of the situation at the moment.
Michael's was one of the cars caught up in the chain reaction.
Trying to figure out what's going on. I was putting my foot in the brake, car just kept going forward, hit the car in front, and a little bit surreal.
Another driver caught up in the incident has told me he was about to get out of his car after it was hit and narrowly avoided being struck by the ute as it took off.
There was literally hundreds of pedestrians going across the roads as well. So it was just luck that no one got injured.
The Hilux also sideswiped another vehicle as it made its getaway. The ute later found abandoned in bushland in Parmelia. Police want to speak with anyone who has vision of it before or after the crash. Jamie Freestone, 9 News.
A 4th man has been charged over a brutal stabbing in Northbridge. Police still on the hunt for 2 more males believed to be involved with the brawl, which saw a 22-year-old attacked with a knife in the early hours of Saturday morning. A 23-year-old today granted bail and due to appear in court again next month. The death of WA Olympic cyclist Melissa Dennis, allegedly at the hands of her husband, has rocked the sporting community. Cycling great Anna Mears has described it as a difficult and tragic time. Melissa's husband, Rowan Dennis, has been dumped from the upcoming Tour Down Under ride event, charged with allegedly running her over on Saturday night. It's become one of the most powerful and recognisable events in Australia's sporting calendar, the Pink Test. The McGrath Foundation today launched its 16th charity drive to help fund even more nurses to support those diagnosed with breast cancer.
Come Wednesday, when Australia takes on Pakistan, the SCG will again be turned pink. A legacy started in 2009 when Glenn McGrath's late wife Jane was diagnosed with breast cancer.
I think when we first decided to tell our story, hoping to help one person, to what it's grown into, absolutely incredible. I know Jane would be incredibly proud.
Since then, the foundation has funded 204 breast care nurses, a godsend for Christy Wales, who received that dreaded diagnosis in 2021, aged just 26. She knew no one who'd had cancer and was overwhelmed.
So to have someone to talk to that actually does have answers and can actually help you out, it's just empowering, I suppose, to some degree, but also just really comforting.
Helping to ease the burden, breast care nurse Elaine Arnold.
They're given a lot of information, which is then overwhelming, and it's a stressful situation. So to be able to make sense of that and peel it apart and then put it back together in a way that they can understand, I think hopefully is what we try to do.
The sad reality is that breast cancer is the most commonly diagnosed cancer among Australian women. 57 people a day getting that awful news. That's a staggering 20,000 a year. And 1 in 5 miss out on the help of a breast care nurse. The foundation hopes to sell 322,000 virtual pink seats this year to raise almost $6.5 million. That would increase its number of nurses to 250.
$20 is a virtual pink seat, and that would mean that every family, every individual going through breast cancer has access to a breast care nurse where they live.
Virtual pink seats are available now at pinktest.com.au. Eddie Meyer, 9 News.
Parts of Queensland still recovering from the Christmas night tornado has been hit again, with the southeast now in the grips of a flood emergency. Homes inundated with water, cars washed away and emergency services run off their feet, responding to hundreds of calls for help.
A dazzling display on New Year's Eve. But shortly after, ominous signs of what was to come. An overnight onslaught on the glitter strip, causing chaos on the roads and putting emergency services under incredible pressure. In the early hours of the morning, while cars were swallowed, drivers at risk were brought to safety.
People just need to take care when they're moving around.
Come morning, several suburbs were still in the firing line.
It's huge. Yeah, absolutely crazy.
On the Gold Coast, this house inundated, while in Tamborine Mountain, roads turned to rivers. Faced with danger, there was the smart and the reckless. Roads were simply too unsafe to risk, and this is why. Horses needed help too, not to mention man's best friend. A rapidly changing situation required everyone to band together, even back up from down south.
Whether it's in Victoria, Queensland, they're out to assist. They have the skill set to do it. So we've come up to assist Queensland.
A similar site in northern New South Wales, more than a dozen flood rescues, flash flooding and towns cut off, with some parts receiving more than 300 millimetres of rain in just 24 hours.
Please make sure that if you are camping, that if possible you move to higher ground.
Because more is on the way. Anna Rawlings, 9 News.
The Kalis name has been synonymous with seafood in WA since 1926. Still to come tonight, an exclusive look at their latest expansion coming to Cottesloe. Find out when coastal eatery Gibney will open its doors and what it means for Perth seafood lovers just after 6:30 tonight. Sunshine to kick off 2024, but Natalia Cooper, it was cooler than the January average.
Yes, it was. Good evening to you, Tracy. It was about 3 degrees below the average. Still a nice day, though. After an overnight low of 17.3, we climbed to a top of 27.9 around 10 past 2 this afternoon. The average maximum in January is 31.4, the average minimum 18.1, and we normally get around 17 millimetres of rain over a couple of days. A high pressure ridge will bring more fine weather tomorrow, and it'll warm up later in the week as a trough deepens down the west coast. I'll be back with the full forecast a little later in the bulletin, Trace.
Wonderful. We'll see you then. Thanks, Natalia. Still to come this New Year's Day, Fire Hero. We meet the tradie who rescued a disabled woman from her burning home. Plus, secret cabinet documents unsealed. We sit down with former Prime Minister John Howard, 20 years on from the Iraq War. See the moment a ride breaks down mid-air. And from our nearest neighbour to the city that never sleeps, all the pictures as the world rang in 2024. A 75-year-old truck driver has been charged over a crash that killed 2 train drivers near the New South Wales-South Australia border. A freight train smashed into the truck at a crossing on the Barrier Highway yesterday morning. The truck driver, who wasn't injured, did not apply for bail. The damage bill is likely to exceed $50 million. A hero tradie has dragged a disabled woman from her burning bedroom after illegal fireworks smashed through a window, setting her house alight. John Croft was walking past the Melbourne home when he heard screams for help.
Flames roar and sparks fly. A midnight inferno caused by stupidity. Neighbours had lit illegal fireworks and flares in the street. Passerby John Croft saw the fire and heard a woman's screams.
About 50% of the bedroom was on fire and she was stuck in there. And mate, it was getting worse by the second.
A firework had smashed through the disabled woman's bedroom window as she slept.
It's just gone crazy. Oh, I just dragged this bird out of her house. I just reached through the window, grabbed her, there was things blowing up everywhere, and then...
He just was lucky that he's strong enough to be able to get the lady out, because being wheelchair bound, she's obviously unable to walk.
The 57-year-old suffered burns to her arms and was taken to hospital, but she'll be okay. John escaped with a few cuts and bruises.
A little bit shaken now just thinking about it.
The victim's daughter, Taylor, wasn't at the home when the fire started, but she's thankful for the hero who saved her mum's life.
I'm very lucky. I'm very grateful he did that. Poor innocent woman in a house, you know, she would have been scared.
To give you an idea of how quickly things went wrong, I'm told that the blaze started at the home within 30 seconds of the fireworks being set off across the road.
We're just ducking and screaming because it felt like it was just going over our heads.
Illegal fireworks caused major problems elsewhere. There were more than 60 incidents.
We had a 48-year-old woman at Altona seriously injured, receiving very, very serious facial injuries, and she may lose an eye.
We have better things to do with our time.
There was nearly a tragedy too in Melbourne's north. A chemical was poured onto a fire, triggering an explosion at a backyard party. 15 people were injured, 8 suffering serious burns.
Something really bad has happened.
Lessons in the consequences of reckless behaviour. The adults who lit the fireworks could face serious charges.
It's pretty irresponsible, especially from people that age should know a lot better.
Reid Butler, 9 News.
A trove of previously secret documents have today been unsealed, revealing the moment John Howard's cabinet committed Australia to the war in Iraq. But key advice behind the decision is missing from the papers, and it's still unclear if it'll ever be made public.
The moment Australia entered a new war in the Gulf.
Forces have commenced combat.
The coalition of the willing, led by the US, invaded Iraq on the 19th of March 2003, citing Saddam Hussein's supposed failure to give up weapons of mass destruction.
The principal reason was our concern that having weapons of mass destruction, he might give them to a rogue terrorist organisation, and there could be a repeat of 9/11.
Newly unsealed documents reveal the day John Howard's cabinet signed off on military action, noting extensive discussions concerning the disarmament of Iraq's weapons of mass destruction. Even before boots were on the ground, swathes of the public voted with their feet. No war! No war! Within weeks of the invasion, Saddam's regime fell, but despite an extensive search, no weapons of mass destruction were ever found. While John Howard defends taking Australia to war, documents that might better explain the decision continue to be kept secret. The handling of the records now the subject of an inquiry by the Albanese government.
This issue was debated uphill and down dale in the National Security Committee.
What exactly was debated?
The validity of being involved.
The issue has been buried, and the government's decision-making, the reasons behind its decisions, haven't been revealed and maybe never will be revealed.
What is revealed in the Cabinet papers, stronger military bonds were followed by tighter economic ties with the US. Negotiations on a free trade deal began, but John Howard says it was no quid pro quo.
The idea that I said to George Bush, well, we send troops, will you give us a trade, was ridiculous.
Eliza Edwards, 9 News.
US Navy helicopters have sunk 3 small Houthi militant boats which were being used to attack a ship in the southern Red Sea. The Iranian-backed group say 10 of its forces were killed. Israeli troops are continuing their operation in the Gaza Strip, with the Defence Force releasing this vision of its K9 unit. Thrill seekers were left stranded mid-air after a ride broke down in London's Hyde Park. Winter Wonderland's organisers say a power outage was to blame. Everyone on the ride was rescued. Eurostar services are running again after flooding in a tunnel underneath the River Thames. Services to London, Paris, Brussels and Amsterdam have resumed, but passengers are being warned there will be delays. 2024 has started in spectacular fashion, from the famous ball drop in New York's Times Square to traditional Buddhist bell tolling in Tokyo. Every nation had its own special take.
From the top of Taipei 101 to the world's tallest building, the Burj Khalifa. Around the world, they looked to the skyline to celebrate. Hong Kong's Victoria Harbour tried to rival Sydney with their biggest show to date. Big Ben ended London's midnight countdown, welcoming 2024 with a kaleidoscope of colour along the banks of the Thames. An explosion of fire and glitter as dancers performed in Beijing, while Tokyo had a more traditional countdown. The City of Lights ushered in its Olympic year with a party along the Champs-Élysées. And in Abu Dhabi, a display that put them in the Guinness World Record books. 5,000 dancing drones and 4.5 kilometres of fireworks wowing spectators with a 40-minute-long show. Crowds gathered in Moscow, but celebrations were muted. The usual fireworks and concert in the Red Square cancelled. The Big Apple was one of the last to welcome in 2024. 1 million revellers packed Times Square for the famous ball drop. More than 1,300 kilograms of confetti, each with a written wish raining down on the city that never sleeps. In the United States, Alison Petrowski, 9 News.
Still to come tonight, medications costing sick Australians more. Next, what's behind the price increase for prescriptions on the pharmaceutical benefit scheme. Your exclusive look at the latest expansion to the Kalis empire, when Cottesloe's new seaside restaurant will open its doors. He broke some of the biggest stories of a generation. Tonight, tributes for Australian journalist John Pilger. And later, meet the first babies born across Australia on New Year's Day.
9 News, brought to you by Stan.
An interim report into the SeaWorld chopper tragedy that killed 4 people and injured 9 others will be released tomorrow. The Australian Transport Safety Bureau has interviewed more than 80 witnesses. Tomorrow marks 1 year since the crash, SeaWorld helicopters grounding all services in a mark of respect. Medications listed on their pharmaceutical benefit scheme will now cost you more due to inflation. Patients will pay $1.60 more for their prescriptions, and people who hold a concession card will pay 40 cents more. The Kalis Empire is set to expand this year with a new sophisticated seaside restaurant. Gibney will open its doors in April, and tonight 9 News has been given exclusive access to the Cottesloe site.
A premium dining space taking shape in South Cottesloe.
It will be pretty spectacular.
600 square metres with the capacity to seat around 160 people. Situated along Marine Parade, ocean views as far as the eye can see. George Kalis says Gibney isn't your typical coastal eatery.
A lot more formal than what's being delivered on the coast. From jacketed waitstaff in ties to the ambience being, quite a formal brasserie grill. experience.
The Kalis name has been synonymous with seafood since 1926, and for the past 2 decades, George Kalis has been carving out his own success in the hospitality sector. The 45-year-old heads Kalis Hospitality Group, and Gibney is the latest in his seaside ventures, with the Shore House, Island Market and Canteen and Kalis Fish Market Cafe all successfully operating along our coast. George Kalis describes this site as a unicorn, a premium space that presents itself once in a generation. And this specific area here in South Cottesloe hasn't seen a new hospitality venue since the tea rooms of the 1940s. It's also one of 2 to open this year. Cottesloe's Barchetta to be revamped and replaced by Magic Apple Whole Foods.
Very different concept to Gibney. Whole Foods, fast casual restaurant.
It's those concepts Kalis credits for the success of his coastal venues.
We've got great concepts and we like to think we're doing something different.
As for what's in store beyond Gibney,
we like to plan ahead, and we also like to sort of, pay a lot of attention to the details and what we're doing, and our site selection process is pretty intense, so it does take some time.
Brittany Hoskins, 9 News.
Renowned Australian journalist and documentary maker John Pilger has died in London at the age of 84. Pilger was known for breaking stories that grabbed the world's attention, but his campaigning style also drew criticism.
It was on the front line in Vietnam where John Pilger first garnered attention in 1970, revealing the plummeting morale amongst US troops.
It is ending not because of the Paris talks or the demonstrations at home. It is ending because the largest and wealthiest and most powerful organisation on earth, the American Army, is being challenged from within.
And he was among the first to open the eyes of the world to the horrors of Cambodia's killing fields with the documentary Year Zero.
Cambodia has been virtually sealed for 4 years. Its suffering invisible.
Born and raised in Sydney, he made his reputation in Britain, in newspapers, television and his own documentaries. He highlighted the injustice of payments to thalidomide victims, was in the room when Robert Kennedy was assassinated, and several times turned his laser-like focus on his home country and the plight of Indigenous Australians.
Do you think Australia should be regarded as an apartheid state?
I don't think it's a lot different.
He was awarded Journalist of the Year twice, the United Nations Peace Prize, the Sydney Peace Prize, a BAFTA and an Emmy, and he was never afraid to speak his mind.
Reconciliation is not possible without justice, and this will only happen when the first Australians are offered a genuine treaty that shares this rich country.
As well as his accolades, he also attracted critics.
Your questions are so leading.
No.
Your questions are so leading and loaded.
Your book is leading.
John Pilger never stopped campaigning, more recently for the release of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange.
Where is its humanity?
To the end, he lived by one motto.
We must be sceptical of absolutely everything.
In London, Brett McLeod, 9 News.
From coast to coast, the new year has already welcomed some new faces. Coming up after sport, the little newborns making an entrance in 2024. Plus, boxing kangaroos caught on camera in a campsite bust-up. But Bonnie Raynor is here with sport. Now, Bonnie, a shock announcement from David Warner.
Tracy, not one retirement, but two. The opener calls stumps in a shorter format. Dave's done. The World Cup winner bows out as he opens up on Sandpaper Gate. The Demon sprints into a top 10 tussle with a strong start, and Angry Ange, the Aussie manager, booked in a fiery finish. A reflective David Warner has declared the harsh lessons of Sandpaper Gate have made him a better person. And as he prepares to open for Australia's Test team one final time, Warner revealing he's also retiring from one-day cricket.
Back at his home ground in his baggy green cap, David Warner's Test career now coming to a close.
How are you feeling to be here at the end of it?
I'm feeling great. It's a great decision I think I've made. You know, I've got to give back to the family. It's been quite surreal though, but to be here, 112 tests, I think it is, coming out for the last time, it's still pinching myself.
A farewell match 7 months in the making. Today, another announcement without notice.
I'm definitely retiring from one-day cricket as well.
One last surprise from an opener who turned Test tradition on its head. Blistering with the bat, he'll go down as one of our greatest openers.
I just want to leave behind that you can go out and play the way that you want to play.
Warner's will to win led to so many highs, but it also brought about one unforgettable low. 5 years on, he's now grateful for the lessons of Sandpaper Gate and the 1-year suspension that came from it.
I had to play grade cricket. The canteen ladies, the people who run the drinks out to you, taking on and off the covers. It was a sense of something that I sort of got disconnected with, and I think a lot of us do because we're in this bubble. But when you go back and you see the real people who are really, really working hard, which we did as young kids, that's what I reflect most upon. That whole period, my whole career, I've got no regrets. You have to move forward, and I've done that with dignity. I've come back and I've got a lot of passion for the game.
David Warner knows that he's always divided public opinion, but now that he's heading into retirement, he hopes that he'll be remembered in a different light.
A boy from Housing Commission having a dream. I've not always fitted the mould, but I've been authentic to myself and very honest. You guys have seen how honest I am, sometimes too honest. But that's how I've always been.
Sam Jordan, 9 News.
The Hurricanes have leapt off the foot of the Big Bash table and up to 5th, courtesy of a 7-wicket win over Sydney Thunder. Ben McDermott leading the charge with an unbeaten half-century, the home side chasing down the 152-run target with 11 balls to spare.
There it goes, all the way. Is this going to be it? It is. What a way to bring it up. The Hurricanes win here tonight.
Last night, West Aussie Marcus Stoinis blasting his fastest ever half-century. The 19-ball blitz helping the Stars chase Adelaide's 205 with an over to spare. Alex de Minaur has made a superb start to Australia's United Cup challenge against reigning champions America. The 24-year-old clinching a 6-4, 6-2 victory just moments ago, securing a stunning singles upset.
A tough task against a top 10 talent. The Demon doing damage early.
And he gets the early break, just the start that Team Australia wanted.
Victory against the reigning champions crucial for Team Australia's semi-final hopes, but Taylor Fritz no easy feat. Hot on Alex de Minaur's tail. The Aussie taking the first break, holding firm to claim the first set.
And have a look at the speed as he dashes back to the bench.
Fritz responding in the second and with a bit of fortune on his side. A line ball going his way despite the on-court marking showing it was out. Demon not dwelling, taking the first break regardless.
Oh, incredible tennis. And that's a celebration.
Spain ending Poland's unbeaten run. Alejandro Davidovich Fokina defeating Hubert Hurkacz 3-6, 6-3, 6-4. Top-ranked women's player Iga Swiatek's straight sets triumph equalising the tie. A 6-love doubles domination, seeing Team Poland book a quarter-final spot. Last night, world number 1 Novak Djokovic cruising past China's Zhijian Zhang 6-2, 6-2 in his United Cup opener.
He's going to seal it with an ace.
Then claiming an epic doubles victory just before midnight.
The most special evening or night of the year, and you decided to spend it with us. So we are really, really grateful for that.
In Sydney, Casper Ruud claiming a crucial straight sets victory to keep Team Norway's hopes alive. And at the Brisbane International, new mum former world number 1 Naomi Osaka fighting back in a second set tiebreak to defeat Tamara Korpatsch 6-3, 7-6 in her first match in 15 months. Rafael Nadal showing no signs of soreness, all smiles after his long-awaited return.
I've been on the receiving end a couple of times in singles, so it's nice to get him back on a doubles court.
Nadal facing Dominic Thiem in his men's singles comeback tomorrow morning. Erin Harwood, 9 News.
Veteran jockey Willie Pike has secured his 4th Perth Cup, saluting in a thrilling finish. Casino 17 edging out Be Optimistic by the barest of margins to clinch the $1 million race.
Be Optimistic coming, so's the post, they'll split it together, nothing in it. Casino 17 on the inside of Be Optimistic in a nail-biter to the cup.
It's the 5th time trainers Grant and Alana Williams have won the iconic race. And Tottenham has bounced back to within 3 points of Premier League form Bournemouth.
And they're in trouble again here, and Charlison is there to turn it in and to surely wrap up the win for Spurs.
Is that one of those things when pressure and tensions are high?
Yeah, we all just came together and wished each other a happy new year, mate, and made some resolutions.
A win there for Alex Dimonor at RAC Arena.
Absolutely, the demon strikes again. All right, Bonnie, thank you. Next, meet the first babies born in 2024, plus why alternative milks aren't always the healthiest option. And Natalia Cooper, it's warming up later in the week.
Yes, Tracy. Tomorrow will be partly cloudy and 30. Then the temperature will climb into the mid-30s by the weekend. Your full forecast is coming up.
As the clock struck midnight and fireworks erupted across Australia, some families grew. Here's a look at the first babies of the new year.
Introducing Perth's newest and cutest resident, Hugo Sharman Vallant, arriving at 10 to 1 this morning.
So we came in on the 30th to start an induction of labour, and then it was just a long marathon process till last night.
In Sydney, another new arrival, and just like fireworks, Kinesi Cannon Guitar entered the world with a bang.
There was no stopping her. She just came out.
Booked in for a C-section tomorrow, but surprising her parents at 4:44 this morning following a lightning speed less than 2-hour labour at Auburn Hospital.
Dad had a few drinks New Year's Eve, so he was a bit tipsy when we came in, but as soon as the drama unfolded, he sobered up real quick.
3.38 kilograms of perfection, and a sibling to twin brothers and a baby sister, named after Mum Macalese's mother and niece, who recently passed away.
Once she came out and she was a girl, we knew what the name was supposed to be.
It was a race for the first baby born at Gold Coast University Hospital in 2024. Little Indiana making her grand entrance as the clock struck 12:01.
It was timing pretty close to midnight, and I had one of the midwives telling me that there was another lady getting ready to push, so I was determined to make it the first one then.
Second-time parents Kareen and Ori are still deciding on a name for their baby girl, who interrupted a New Year's Eve dinner.
We saw all the party goers on their way home while we were coming in.
And what better way to celebrate new beginnings? Shanae Maripodi, 9 News.
They're popular, but alternative milks might not be as good for our health as we think. A UK study has found oat, soy and almond milks could be the reason for a surge in vitamin deficiencies. Oat milk has less protein, vitamins B1 and B12, iron, magnesium and iodine than cow's milk. Campers on New South Wales' south coast has been given a fright after stumbling upon 2 kangaroos with a bone to pick. They squared off just metres from cabins at Pambula Beach, at one point wrestling within touching distance of the holidaymaker who took the video. It's unknown how the roos resolved their dispute. Stay with us, Natalia Cooper is back with the weather details right after this break.
Welcome back. A lovely sunny start to the new year. A little breezy this afternoon and temperatures were below average for January. Our top of 28 came around 2 this afternoon. 17 was the low early this morning, and right now it is sitting on 23.5 degrees. To the charts, and a high pressure ridge will bring more fine weather tomorrow. It'll hot up later in the week as a trough deepens down the west coast. Around the country, more thunderstorms with heavy falls and flash flooding for Brisbane. Partly cloudy and 29 in Sydney, and showers developing with the chance of a storm in Melbourne. Mostly sunny and a top of 30 in Adelaide, and Alice Springs is set to reach a scorching 42 degrees. Back in the north of our state, a storm and 41 in Kununurra, 46 in Marble Bar and 45 degrees in Newman. Exmouth is set to be windy tomorrow. Further south, windy also in Geraldton and Jurien Bay. Partly cloudy and 29 degrees in Bunbury. A shower or two for Albany, and showers are set to ease in Esperance. On the waters, southeasterly winds 15 to 25 knots all day, seas to 2 metres but decreasing, and swell below a metre. Around the suburbs tomorrow, 31 degrees in Joondalup, 28 in Kalamunda, windy in Swanbourne and 30 degrees the max in Rockingham and Mandurah. So for Perth, tomorrow will be a partly cloudy day. We're going for a top of 30 degrees after a low tonight of 17. Winds will be southeasterly, 25 to 40 kilometres per hour. Looking ahead, mostly sunny and 30 32 degrees on Wednesday. Sunshine and 32 on Thursday and Friday. A warm 34 degrees the top for Saturday. Then a hot 36 degrees on Sunday and Monday. Overnight temperatures are ranging from 16 up to a warm 20 degrees. So a very pleasant few days ahead of us with some very hot conditions moving in from Sunday, Tracy, but we're still not seeing anything up around the 40-degree mark, which I, for one, am grateful for.
Yes, me too. All right, Natalia, thanks very much. And that's 9 News this New Year's Day. Thanks for your company. Stay with us here on 9 for the United Cup. From the team, enjoy your evening and good night.